Sam is here along with his parents, Dr. Leslie Gordon and Dr. Scott Burns. And Sam, one of the reasons you have to be careful is your bones are quite fragile. So you have to be careful in terms of some of the things that you know, the physical activities you engage in. And I'm just curious how you handle the inevitable frustrations that must sometimes come with having progeria.
Everybody has their challenges in life and their obstacles to try to overcome. And although I accept the fact that sometimes I feel really dejected when I'm not able to do something, that there are all of these other opportunities to be able to do so many other activities and things that you know, that maybe some other people can't do, or even, you know, that everybody can do, that I just enjoy a lot.
Yeah. And Leslie and Scott, I know that you established the Progeria Research Foundation 14 years ago. You successfully isolated the gene that causes progeria. That was back in, what, 2003, I think?
Yeah, 2003.
And then you decided you had to turn your sights on coming up with some kind of treatment.
Once we discovered there was absolutely nothing out there for kids with progeria and no place to go, we said, well, that's it. I stopped what I was doing with my residency. We created the Progeria Research Foundation. We sort of filled each other's gaps. My sister Audrey became the executive director.
Hi, Audrey. She's here.
We really tapped into the people around us, family and friends and colleagues, to create this organization. But what we really wanted to do was fill the gaps.
And you came up then with a drug, and you, I know, did a series, you did a clinical trial. You brought 28 kids from 17 countries to Boston.
Yep.
Another incredibly moving part of this documentary, because these kids finally had somebody who was advocating for them and looking for research, because there are, what, only about 200 to 250 kids worldwide that we know of who have progeria?
Yeah, actually, it was wonderful to get to that moment, even to be able to ask the question, do we have a drug that might be able to work for kids with progeria?
And Leslie is the physician scientist in the family, and she was really able to galvanize a number of different scientists really from all over the world to come together, put their minds together, and, you know, from the gene finding right to the treatment. And then quickly, very quickly, we were in clinical trial and bringing children in from all over the world.
And before I ask you about the results of the trial, Sam, what was it like for you to meet these kids who were experiencing so many of the same things that you were?
It's really great to meet them, and it's not the type of meeting where we get in a circle and talk about our problems. It's the type of meeting that we just get together and have a good time, you know. And I think everybody knows that the challenges of progeria are there, and everybody knows that we want to move in a forward direction and advance the research and do everything and just enjoy each other's company, because in the end that's really all that matters, or at least I think, in any situation, especially you know, when I'm with other kids with progeria.
And I know that after the 2-year clinical trial was completed, the results were very encouraging. Tell us about that.
Subgroups of kids of the 28 were able to gain more weight, which was great, improve their bone structure, which was great. But of course, most importantly, and something that completely surprised us and blew us away, was the improvement in the cardiovascular system. We were actually able to start getting at the vascular disease in progeria, something which I don't think I let myself sort of imagine or hope for until I saw the data.
So you're not only stopping the progression, it seemed to be slightly reversing what had happened.
Yes, and in fact, we knew so little about progeria to start with, so we didn't sort of have a slope of what to expect in the cardiovascular disease. So the only thing we could measure would be a reversal to prove that the drug was having some effect. This is not a cure. It's sort of like going from 0 to 20 or 25, but it tells you something that's invaluable. It's that we can really do something about progeria Because if you can go 25% of the way, you can go 100% of the way. You just have to find the way to do it.
I know you've launched another clinical trial
Yes.
using this drug in conjunction with another drug.
Right.
And so we'll be very excited to hear what happens there. And I want to introduce Sean Fine and Andrea Nix Fine because they're Academy Award-winning directors. They made this incredible documentary about Sam. And I'm just curious from your point of view, Andrea, I know that you filmed this family for 3 years. Why was it important to tell their story and Sam's story?
I think it really came down to, you know, anytime you do a film, what draws you to it as a story. And at first, you know, this is such incredible odds. Here you have a disease that is so rare, yet it, you know, it affects everybody. And then, you know, you meet Sam, and I think you all have met him for just a few minutes, and you're just like, this is such an incredible mind. And what a great kid.
And Sean, what do you hope people will ultimately take away from this movie?
I mean, I think we hope that they'll ultimately take something for themselves out of this movie. We hope that this movie crosses borders in a way, and that it inspires people to look at their lives differently, to live their lives differently, to look at their families differently. But I think ultimately, after getting to know these guys, obviously, for 3 years, and I consider Sam my friend and my buddy now, and ultimately I want them to find a cure for this disease.
And Scott and Leslie, what has your son taught you about life?
My son teaches me something every day, Katie. He's taught me to enjoy the present, the precious present, and to concentrate on being happy. I used to be a very long-term thinker. Academic medicine, you think 10 years down the road. And he's taught me how to enjoy the present. I do still think long-term about the goals of the Progeria Research Foundation and trying to get to that cure, which hopefully isn't too long away. But he's an inspiration every day.
And Leslie, what about you?
Most people don't get to do what I do. They don't get to meet children with progeria and see them and see their courage. And I think courage is something that Sam has taught me. How to